Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 7 of Adventures in Osaka. I apologize for the 3-week absence. I'm just going to summarize all of the things that have happened in class right away. Pretty much we're heading towards midterm season, so the work is getting more intense, doing more research projects. I have to do a book review. I am dedicating plenty of time to schoolwork, don't worry. But then also on the weekends, I've been fairly busy. Then that weekend, the weather was kind of nice. It was like the first time in a while it had been in like the mid 50s. So I decided to go for a walk in the neighborhood and play Pokemon. And I discovered that the neighborhood around is very adorable. There's a lot of really great, like, non-chain store shops nearby, and there's a bookstore I found that sells omnibuses of Ace of Diamonds for 100 yen, which is less than $1. And so I couldn't help myself, and I bought, like, I'm heading towards the entire set. On the downside, they are all in Japanese, so if I want to read them, I will have to learn more Japanese. Kind of some other things that are happening in Japanese class. For later in the semester, we're supposed to work in groups of people from our countries or our regions to kind of give an educational seminar on our country to incoming Japanese students, because the Japanese school year starts in the spring, even though the international program is actually calibrated to the international calendar where it starts in the fall. We decided, or I decided, since for some reason I was I was chosen as the group leader for the American students to do American slang, because I felt that it was something that would most interest Japanese students, and kind of use it to teach them about how different regions of the United States are different from each other. Sometimes slang is a little hard for me to think of because I'm just used to it and I don't actually leave Wisconsin that often. So if you guys can think of any slang that I may have forgotten and you just want to suggest, please leave it in the comments. Overall, the semester, like, climax is the poster session, where all of us kind of have our own research project and research topic that we choose and do, and then make a poster about it and talk about it to students and professors at the end of the semester. And because I love making things difficult for myself, I decided to do mine on Japanese cultural and regional unity, to kind of test, like I said before, Japan is more homogenous, but there are regional differences. So I wanted to know, like, when people think of themselves, do they think of themselves as Japanese, or do they think of themselves as members of Kansai, or people from Kansai? What makes all people, like, what do all people from Kansai share? Okay, so going more into kind of the things I've done outside of class and schoolwork, etc. On Tuesday, my Japanese class chose to have us go on a field trip to Nipponbashi, to Namba, which is another kind of city center of Osaka, but a little bit more on the historical side. It was a little bit of a train ride from where we live in Osaka, from our school, but it was a lot of fun. So we started by seeing a few major landmarks. The thing is, that area is very well known for food. I mean, Osaka in general is, like, it's nicknamed the kitchen of Japan because so much famous Japanese food comes from Osaka, and especially from there. We also went to a temple. It's a fairly recognizable temple, Hozenji, where there's a couple statues of Buddha that it's unique because you're supposed to take water out of this basin and then throw water on the Buddha, and I totally missed, which is probably a bad omen. There was this one store that also had little figurines of famous Japanese generals, historical figures, and one of one of the students bought one of the figurines, and so kind of as a thanks, they had little like samurai helmets that they let us all try on and get pictures of, which was amusing. And like that helmet just like absorbed my entire head. But the person in charge of the store told me that I looked like Kyari Pamu Pamu, which was a fantastic, fantastic compliment. As much as Pon 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 freaks me out. But Kyari Pamu Pamu, you know, there are worse people to be compared to. And then we went to Kuromon Market, which means Black Gate Market, originally named because there used to be a black gate at the entrance. There is not one anymore, but the market is still named that, and it is essentially a traditional style Japanese market with like stalls all lining this street, and they're selling food. And it was the best thing ever because, like, Sensei actually commented that every time she turns around, I'm eating something new. Like, I didn't even take pictures of all the things that I ate. The first thing I bought was black ice cream. It's just vanilla ice cream, like vanilla bean ice cream, but it's black. And I was like, I want to try it. And it turns your entire face into the personification of the devil, but it tastes good. And then there was like fried chicken and fried vegetables, and I also bought ice cream for one of the other students because we were both going to buy it and it was 500 yen, and I was just like, since neither of us have a 500 yen coin, I'll just use a 1,000 yen and you can just pay me back later, which she did. It was fine. And then kind of he was like, also, when I see something tasty later, we can try it. And so we bought we bought 2 skewers of things, which is good because you can eat it while you walk. Like pretty much all the food that's sold in the market, aside from like fish fillets and things like that, are designed so you can walk and eat. Where most of the time in Japan, it's actually kind of rude to walk and eat. There, it's not quite as much. So there are little skewers of meat, and the squid was obvious, so I was like, oh, let's get some squid. So he was like, should we get some squid? And I said, yeah, sure. And then he's just like, should we get this too? And I'm like, it looks good. I didn't know what it was, but my policy so far in Japan has been pretty much, I'm not sure what it is, but I'm going to eat it anyway, or at least give it a try. Sensei actually turned around and asked me, because she saw me eating it, she didn't see him eating it, even though he's the one who bought it. And she's like, what are you eating? And I went, I don't know, wakara. And she started laughing so hard. Then she asked us again in the following class, and he's like, I don't know how to say it in English, but here's the kanji, and he wrote it on the board, and she was like, oh, eel stomach. And I'm like, is that what that was? And then, like, she would turn around again, and I would be eating green tea mochi with anko paste on the inside. And then she'd turn around again, and I would be eating candy or something, or like things like that. And she was like, every time I turn around, you're eating something different. So it was kind of funny. But yeah, Kuromon Market is great for that, and I really recommend it. Like, it's a really fun atmosphere, and there's restaurants everywhere and stands, and it's a good time. And then we went to have lunch at Ichiran Ramen, which is a pretty famous ramen store in Japan in general, but I think the original restaurant is from Osaka, is from Namba. And then Sensei left, and then we were kind of making our way back because we originally would have had class that day, but our teacher had canceled, so pretty much we had plenty of time to get back for our 3rd class. So we were meandering, and then there was this little side street that was selling, like, there were stalls that were selling food, and that was the first time I was like, I still have not had Japanese crepes. So afterwards in class the next day, Sensei, like, was asking me to list all of the food that I ate, and she was like, wait, when did you get a crepe? And I'm like, after you left. The following Friday, I decided to go to Nara with another friend to go see Koriyama Castle. Now, castles in Japan look a lot different from castles that you think of in Europe. But it's a small castle, not like Osaka-jo or Himeji Castle, like it's much smaller, but it's still a very beautiful structure, and we happened to be lucky and get there just in time for plum blossom season. So all of the plum trees around the castle were starting to bloom, and we got some very beautiful pictures. We also stopped by the shrine of Hachiman, who is the god of war and education, which is kind of an interesting combination, but you know, you do what you do. And so we stopped by, and it was very quiet. There was like nobody there. It was so quiet. I didn't even want to talk in my full voice. I felt like I had to whisper. Um, and then we went back to Umeda because we didn't get there until kind of late because we went there right after class, and the train ride to Nara is kind of long. We went back to Umeda to have dinner, and we also tried Uncle Rikuro's cheesecakes. It is pretty good. I do recommend it. On Tuesday, because this next weekend from now, there's going to be kind of I guess you could call it a convention, but like a street convention, in Tenten Town, which is a set of streets in Namba, where people will be walking around in cosplay, and we're really excited. We're going to go there, but in order to go, it's not a requirement, but I feel weird not wearing cosplay. So we were going to go to a store in Umeda called Mandarake, which sells cosplay, and we did go, and they don't just sell cosplay; they sell manga and anime DVDs and anime soundtracks and figurines, and oh, I was tempted. There actually was a decent amount of cosplay of Macross Frontier, which I was very happy about. The only sad thing is that the stuff they had was all medium size or larger, and you know, sizes in Japan are a little different from sizes back in the States, where a small is generally smaller than your small back home. Um, but I was looking at the mediums, and I'm like, no, unless I had a sewing machine, this would be too big for me. I couldn't make it to fit myself. So didn't end up buying any cosplay. So then next Tuesday, we're hoping to go to Tenten Town itself and hopefully find a cosplay to wear. I'm not going to be super picky, but something that I would be willing to wear over and over again, because if I buy it, then I'm going to be taking it home, and probably wearing it in Asen. The weekend after Nara, the weather was so nice. It was 70 degrees and it was sunny, and so I went for a walk and went to the same bookstore where I bought the Dino Ace omnibuses, and I bought more Dino Ace omnibuses, and went to a karaage stand that many of the international students have been beginning to frequent ever since we found it, because it's fairly famous, very, very popular in this area, for karaage. Karaage is like Japanese fried chicken, and it is pretty good. Not quite as salty as fried chicken, like from KFC or something like that, which is also fairly popular in Japan. Which reminds me, in Namba, there's a place called Dotonbori. It's a street, kind of, and there's a bridge that crosses Dotonbori that we visited. And apparently that bridge is the site of the Colonel Sanders curse. Because if you know about Osaka at all, you know that Osaka is like full of rabid fans, like Packers fans back home. Like that's the stereotype that Osaka baseball fans have. And the team is called the Hanshin Tigers. There was one fan who got so excited that he took a statue of Colonel Sanders that was standing outside the KFC, and he threw it off of the bridge into the river. So the story goes. And then after that, the Hanshin Tigers record went terrible, and they blamed it on the curse of Colonel Sanders. And so they said that the curse wouldn't be lifted until Colonel Sanders was pulled out of the river. This is a real a real story. Look it up. I am not making this up. They dredged the river to do some like repairs and stuff, and they did find most of the statue, so they're hoping that the curse will finally be lifted. So I guess the story of Colonel Sanders is going to be our surprises in Japan for this week. Let's call it a night, and I will see you all next week.